What a weekend this is for wrestling. You got the NXT show, you got the Saturday Night's main event, you got Evolution tomorrow, but I want to talk about AEW All In 2025, All In Texas. This is the biggest show of the year for AEW, and they needed to they have to deliver on this show because AEW's been in bad shape for a few months, but lately the booking has improved. I've done videos about it. The booking in AEW has gotten a lot better in the last couple of months. I'm not sure what changed in Tony Khan's head. I'm not sure like if his philosophy changed, but the booking has absolutely improved. And tonight was kind of the crescendo of all that booking. Tonight, everything that the storylines were going to all sort of centered into this show, All in Texas, from a big ass stadium in Texas. Very important show for the company. They had to deliver a big show. They had to do the right thing and get the title off of Moxley. And I can tell you that this was a phenomenal show. This show, I think, in my opinion, is my favorite AEW pay-per-view of the year, and it's in my top 5 of all time. Now, it really was that good. Now, I want you to understand something. I'm not saying that because every single match delivered. Most of them did. Like, almost everything did. But there were things that happened that were out of their control we're going to talk about shortly. But the thing about this show, right, is that yes, there have been other shows that had more like great matches. Like, for example, Revolution back in March. You know, you had those 3 or 4 matches near the end that were just killer. This show had 3 main events. They all delivered, and the show itself felt more balanced and better paced. It was long. It started at 3 p.m. and ended at around 9-ish, I think, something like that. So it did go long. Not super long like other shows have, but it did go long. But they didn't slam the show with too many matches either. There was only about 8 matches or so on the show. So it was a very big show, especially when it comes to getting people back into AEW. And let me tell you, they made a lot of decisions on this show that I think are going to be key to making this Wednesday's Dynamite a must-see show. And I'm going to watch the show because of what I said. The storylines are moving in a way where I'm interested again. I want to see again. So, I want to see where the stories go. But we'll talk about it, okay? So, the All In, first of all, the stadium looked great. The Texas stadium looked incredible. It was, they had, I think, 35,000. Massive building, huge gate for AEW. I like the stadium a lot, but there is one flaw, and this is not AEW's fault. The acoustics in the building were bad. Some parts of the show sounded like the crowd wasn't really into it. But I had multiple friends there who were telling me that, no, it's loud in here. So if you look at the building, it's very wide. And I think, and this has been a problem with stadium shows, the sound travels up and it doesn't sound as loud as like an arena would. There were a couple times on this show when the crowd did go absolutely nuts and you could hear it, especially for the main event. And we're going to talk about it. But overall, that's the only con I can think of, is that. And that wasn't their fault. So, but we'll get into it. The Ops, which is Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata, versus the Death Riders, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and Gabe Kidd. This is for the AEW Trios title. The perfect match to open the show. Everybody got a chance to shine. It was an excellent match, I thought. It's funny that Gabe Kidd was known as a guy who was shitting on AEW just like, 6 months ago, and now he's become a member of the roster. So Samoa Joe wins with a muscle buster on Wheeler Yuta. And what happens is after the match, the Death Riders all beat up the baby faces and they Pillmanize Joe with the chair around his neck. So they did an injury angle and they made it seem like Samoa Joe was very badly injured in this show. And I think the reason as to why they did that is because they wanted to first of all foreshadow what they would do to Will Ospreay later in the show, but also prevent Samoa Joe from interfering in the main event with Moxley. Because if he's like stretchered out, and if Hobbs and Shibata are going to the hospital with Joe, they're not going to be around for the main event, and thus it makes it easier for Mox to win. I think that was the story they were trying to tell here. But obviously, the Death Riders as a group is not over yet because Joe still has to get his revenge. But it was a good opener. It was a good opener. Then they had the men's casino gauntlet. I enjoyed it. There were some interesting moments here and there. I think last year's gauntlet was a little bit better. Honestly, that one had the debut of Ricochet. That one was, I felt, a more pertinent part of the show. But what they did with this one that was clever is they opened it with MJF and Mark Briscoe, who have been feuding on television. So they were the first two guys in this gauntlet. And then everybody else started coming down. This, I will say this about the AEW, like, Gauntlet Battle Royals. They really need, like, a Royal Rumble, like, horn or something. Because, like, the countdown is fine. Like, the clock and the crowd counting down with it, like the Royal Rumble. But you got to have some kind of noise to signify that someone's coming out. I know it's a small nitpick, but it's something they can improve on later. I really did like this match. Tons of spots. I mean, tons of... Takeshita was in this. Bandito was in this. Mystico was in this. Josh Alexander. They had a lot of talent in this show. Anthony Bowens came out there. Roderick Strong, Brody King. They actually had Juice Robinson make his return. Totally different look for him. Looked like how he did back in NXT. They had the Guns make their return, feuding with the Gates of Agony. So I don't know where Jay White's been. I think he's hurt, but it seems like that's where they're going. Also, Ibushi was in this, and Platinum Max, I think, had the funniest thing, like the funniest segment. The Beast Mortos was in this as well. The finish was interesting. So what happened was Mark Briscoe hit the J Driller on Roderick Strong, and then MJF, as Mark had covered Roderick, MJF ran in, threw Mark Briscoe out of the ring, and stole the pin. So MJF now has the contract to win the title at any point. This is like Money in the Bank, where you can cash it in at any time. We saw Christian do it earlier, a few months ago. And we're going to talk more about Christian later. But I think this was the right move. MJF working his way back up to being a main eventer. I like it. I think this time he should stay a heel. And yeah, so I enjoyed that. I really did like that. So Stokely Hathaway reveals that MJF is going to be doing commentary for the tag title match. And immediately I said to myself, I'm like, watch. Tonight they lay out Christian and set up Edge and Christian against FTR. See, I thought they were going to do Edge and Christian versus FTR at All In back when they turned on Edge. When they turned on Edge, and you guys, if you've been watching my reviews, I'm the Oracle, bro, not Paul Heyman, because I told y'all they were going to do this. I just thought it would be at All In. Instead, they did the angle at All In, which I'm going to talk about when we get there. I want to go in order here. Adam Cole. I love Adam Cole. Adam Cole in 2019, 2018 was probably my favorite wrestler in the business in NXT. He had that wonderful world title reign. Adam Cole is just, and when you watch him on Twitch, Austin Jenkins, which is Adam Cole's real name, the Chugs, is the sweetest human being. Like, Adam Cole is such a nice guy, dude. Talk about somebody who doesn't deserve it. His AEW run has been marred with injury after injury. And a lot of his AEW run, he was on the shelf. And it really bugs me because I love Adam Cole as a person and as a wrestler. I mean, I don't know him. We're not close IRL friends, but he's always treated me with respect and kindness. And apparently he was injured and he has to relinquish the title. This was very sad. He came out. This hurt the crowd reaction for the show. So he came out to relinquish the title. They changed it into a four-way. And he basically, they didn't reveal what the injury was, but he basically made it seem like he might be done with wrestling entirely. So it could be a CTE thing. It could be a neck thing. It could be like something going on with his brain. I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. His arms and his legs looked fine. He was walking around. He looked okay. So I don't see what the injury is. It might be another health problem that doesn't show itself, but this was really, really sad. He was saying that, and he started crying here, but I felt this. He was like, look, if I never come back, thank you guys. It was just such an emotional moment. Such an emotional, it was so sad, bro. It was so sad. Like, I was bummed out. This led to a four-way. Kyle Fletcher versus Daniel Garcia versus Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. Very emotional, and I think they did the right thing with the finish. Dustin Rhodes won this match and got his first AEW singles title. And he won it. It was really emotional. They had a bunch of guys come in the ring and congratulate him. Yes, it was for the TNT title, which is, it's a mid-card title, but don't forget that Cody was the first TNT champion. He really set the bar. And for Dustin to win the Cody belt, I thought was cool. Also, Dustin just signed a 6-year extension with AEW, which surprises me because the dude's old. I mean, he's not super old, but can he go for 6 more years? I don't know. Dustin won the title, though. That was a shocker. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. Oldest guy in the match. So a bunch of people came out. Aubrey Edwards handed Rhodes the title. His nephews were there. The Von Erichs. It was really a very touching moment, man. It really was. I like this a lot. Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland against the Young Bucks. I enjoyed everything about this. The Young Bucks' new character, where they dress like the founding fathers and like the Revolutionary War outfits, is my favorite version of heel Young Bucks ever. What they did last year, I thought was not the right move for them. For the Young Bucks, it makes more sense that they're corny and that they're goofy and that they're not taken that seriously. You should not take them seriously. That's the point. So the Young Bucks, I felt, did a great job with the entrances. They had a wacky entrance. They're basically taking sole credit for starting AEW, which makes sense because Cody's gone and Kenny's a babyface. So they're going to try and glom all of the glory for starting AEW. This was a tremendous match. So they with the Bucks losing the match, they lost their EVP status. And that's going to be very interesting going forward on the television, because now I want to watch Dynamite to see what the fallout is of this feud. I want to watch of this match. I want to watch Dynamite to see what they're going to do and where they're going to go with the Bucks no longer being EVPs. Kenny's the last one left. There's a lot of very interesting things they can do. This match, though, was crazy. I love the storytelling here. The Bucks opened up the match and they were in control, and it took a little bit of time before Swerve and Hangman were able to get focused, and I like that storytelling a lot. The last quarter or so of the match was nuts. Tons of bumps, tons of Tons of like big moves and reversals and just insane the amount of stuff they did here. The finish was also insane. Osprey set up, I think it was Matt Jackson with, or no, it was Nick. It was Nick. And no, it was Matt. It was Matt. They were going for it. Osprey put him in a tombstone position, kind of like the Meltzer driver, except Swerve came off the top with the house call and the hidden blade combination, and that was the match, the move that won him the match. I loved it. The only thing I did not like, and I've complained about this before, is the fact that in this match there was a Meltzer driver done on the floor and on the apron, if I remember correctly. I've told you guys before, I hate it when tombstone pile drivers and pile drivers end up being 2 counts. When you do a pile driver to someone, that move, in my opinion, should still be protected because you're dropping someone on the top of their head and they could get paralyzed from it. And we've seen people in wrestling and other sports get paralyzed over that. So I think if you do a tombstone or a regular pile driver, especially some of these fancier pile drivers like what Will and Swerve did and the Young Bucks, you should be out of commission for a while. That's the way I see it. But no, it ends up leading to a 2 count, and that does annoy me. It really does. The women's casino gauntlet match. This was, they worked hard. I was curious about why they put that on this part of the show, but I have my theories on that. I felt like, first of all, I knew, well, I didn't know, but I suspected that Athena was going to win this. And I suspected that that was going to be like the finale, and it was. Willow Nightingale was in this, and let me tell you something. Willow has lost a considerable amount of weight. I see her, she's never been this thin. Like, she looks very thin. Still got the thick legs, but she's very thin and looks in great shape. Ty Mello was in this. Harley Cameron made an appearance, who I love. She's like my favorite character in the women's division outside of Toni Storm. Julia Hart in AEW. Julia Hart came out. Athena, Thunder Rosa. But Athena's the one that won the match. Got a big pop. And remember, Athena is the AEW, I'm sorry, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. That title doesn't really mean anything. It's Ring of Honor, and that's not, nobody respects TK's Ring of Honor, bro. It's garbage. Let's just be honest. Nobody cares. Athena's been champion for like 4 years, though, and now she has the women's Money in the Bank, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So she's going to get a title shot soon. Then we had the tag title match. The Hurt Syndicate versus Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, who have gotten huge pushes since coming into the company. And then they had the Patriarchy, Christian and Nick Wayne, for the AEW tag titles. This was, I think, the bathroom break match. No disrespect to any of these guys. It's just that the main event, the triple main event, was about to start. So we were going to get about 2 solid hours of main event wrestling. And it wound up being longer than 2 hours, actually. So we got solid main event wrestling. So this match kind of became like, in some ways, fodder. But they did work hard. There was a lot of things that they did here. This was obviously building up to FTR being in the tag division again for the tag titles. But what happened was the Patriarchy turned on Christian, like Nick Wayne turned on his dad, and even his mom was happy about it, and FTR was in the ring. Then Edge, Adam Copeland, came out for the save, and then he grabs the mic, and he tells Christian, "Go find yourself," which is a response to "Go fuck yourself," which Christian told Edge a while ago. So, like I said, Edge and Christian versus FTR, probably at All Out. It could be at Full Gear. I'm guessing it'll be All Out in September because they have to do the Christian Edge reunion there. And I think FTR is the perfect team for them to wrestle. So this was a great angle, I thought. A phenomenal angle. Good job, Tony Khan, man. I have been waiting for Tony Khan to pick it back up again, and I got to give him credit, man. Very well done angle. They could have done it slower, but it was fine for what it was. It's going to be weird that Christian will be a babyface again, but I like it. And Adam can sort of be there as the really likable face, but the guy who is going to sort of convince Christian we can beat these guys. So it's going to be very interesting going forward. I'm down. I am down, and it was a great moment. Timeless Toni Storm versus Mercedes Mone for the women's title. I think this was the best Mercedes match like that she's had in AEW, in my opinion. It's not the best Toni Storm match. I still think that, my opinion, the match that she had with Mariah May was better, who's now Blake Monroe in NXT. But it was Mercedes' best match, and it was a phenomenal match. What I thought was most surprising is I swear I thought that Mercedes was going to win. I thought she would win and she would go on to face Athena at some point, but that's not what happened. That is not what happened. She got beat. 1, 2, 3. Avalanche Storm 0. 1, 2, 3. Toni Storm pinned Mercedes. Mercedes has lost for the first time in AEW. And it happened on the biggest show of the year, All In number 3 from Texas. Listen, good booking. The match was good. The match got better and better as it went along. No complaints from me. It was great. It was great. Where do we go from here? Who does Toni Storm challenge next? Who goes after her? I guess we'll find out. But I like this a lot. And also, I like the fact that the triple main event was actually the last 3 matches. I'm kind of sick of wrestling shows doing that thing where the co-main event is like a bathroom break match. Like, you know, the calm the crowd down match. I don't hate that concept. I just think it's done a bit too much. And I feel like a lot of these pay-per-views would be better served if they end with like a 1-2 punch of greatness. You know, 2 big matches to close the show that are like massive. But instead, we got 3 big matches to close the show that are massive. Kenny Omega, international champion, versus the continental champion, Okada. Winner take all match for the new AEW unified title. This was, of course, a rematch from their legendary feud in New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is a match that Tony Khan wanted to put together since he hired Okada. I would even go so far as to say this is a big reason as to why he even hired Okada, because of that feud they had in 2017, 2018. I mean, those matches elevated Kenny Omega and Okada. These are the matches that made Meltzer break his star rating scale. 7 stars and stuff like that. Can this match hold up? I pretty much told myself that I don't think that this match was going to hold up to the ones from New Japan. And they haven't had a match since 2018. So I was thinking, okay, they're older. Kenny is a bit more banged up than he used to be. Okada is a bit slower in AEW. Could it be on the level of their original match? It wasn't. It was not on the level of their New Japan Pro Wrestling matches. However, it was still phenomenal. The crowd was into everything. Jim Ross did the commentary here, and Don Callis was also there, being surprisingly respectful. Okada and Omega started this match, and it was a pretty good match. It was I'd say a pretty great match, but it did not match up with the legendary feud that they had in New Japan, but still a really, really good match. They picked it up a lot from before, when we started seeing Okada bust out the drop kick and then tease the Rainmaker, and Kenny at one point teased the one-winged angel. He actually hit it at one point, but Callis broke it up. So this match had a bit more gaga, a bit more smoke and mirrors than their Japanese matches. So it was, in a way, Americanized. Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero went in. Callis, again, was there to break up the pin and screw Kenny over. There was a phenomenal finish here. So Okada hit what looked like a tilt-a-whirl power slam, which is not one of his regular moves, and then hit a Rainmaker, and then got the 1-2-3. And Okada had to get help to the back by, Omega got help to the back by Ibushi. This was a great match. Again, not on the level of New Japan matches, don't think I'm saying that. But also, when they were saying things like, okay, this is the last time that they're going to wrestle. Why? Why does this have to be the last time? Why don't they just do another rematch? Why don't they wrestle again later in the year or next year? Why don't they wrestle again at All In London next year? Why does it have to be the last match? It shouldn't be. This should not be the last match between these two, because they didn't really they didn't really get onto all cylinders, right? They didn't go max out until near the end. And even then it was, again, it felt like they were holding back, right? Then do it again. Run it back. That's what I want. Jon Moxley, Hangman Page for the AEW World Title Texas Death Match. Mox had to lose here. There was just, I made a video about it weeks ago. Hangman has to win. The Death Rider storyline it got better. It really did, but it's been long in the tooth for a while, and a big reason as to why the viewership went down. But lately it's been going back up again. But this was the right time to end it, and boy did they ever end it. This match had tons of smoke and mirrors, surprise run-ins, spots, memorable stuff from the past. This was pro wrestling drama at its best. It's a Jon Moxley match. If it's a Jon Moxley match, the first thing you're going to ask is, did Moxley bleed? Stupid question. When does he not bleed? Would be something that's a better question. Number two, did he do something stupid like land on a spiked hammer or whatever? He landed on a bed of nails and got choked out with a chain. That's a Jon Moxley match. But before then, there was a ton of storytelling. So I really liked this match. I really did, genuinely. They told a great story. First of all, having Hangman come out to his original theme song, I love that. Mox and them came out on like a pickup truck or something. But yeah, Moxley bleeding early in the match. I thought, it's Moxley, he'll do that. But it was really early into the match. Really early. So what wound up happening is at one point, the Death Riders come out. Like Claudio and them, Gabe Kidd. Ospreay comes out with a chair trying to help Hangman. He ends up getting laid out the same way that Samoa Joe was earlier, where his neck was Pillmanized. So he's gone. Now, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, if they really want to close out all these storylines, they're going to have Darby Allin and Bryan Danielson, make cameo appearances. But the most important thing to close out this storyline is Swerve to be the guy to help Hangman win the title. And that's exactly what they did. Tony Khan, for all the mistakes that he's made and all of the booking errors that he's made in the past, Tony Khan did this story, this ending of this, hopefully the end of the Death Rider story, masterful. Yes, we saw Bryan come out. First he was masked, hitting the Bombaye knee on Wheeler Yuta, which I called that they were going to do that. He comes, remember, he was the first guy. He was the guy that got betrayed by with the Blackpool Combat Club at the time. And then Darby Allin comes in, like from the ceiling. I'm surprised they did that again. They did that already before with Darby Allin. He came back from the Mount Everest trip. And remember, people thought that he was going to be the one to get this shot. But it was Hangman, and I would rather have Hangman as champion than Darby. But Darby did propel himself down like Sting. Again, man, since the Owen Hart accident, I felt like doing that is a little weird, but it worked here. So he helped out. And the finishing sequence here was something else. So finally, at the very end, here's what happened. Marina Shafir was going to basically take the briefcase and use it to humiliate Hangman. And when she grabbed it, she was handcuffed. How does she get handcuffed? Turns out that Prince Nana did it. This was a reference, by the way, in case you don't know, this handcuffing thing was actually a reference to a prank that Kurt Hennig played in AWA on Vern Gagne involving handcuffs. If you've seen the Greg Gagne shoot interviews, he's talked about this rib that Kurt Hennig would play with handcuffs. That's where they got this idea from. So, and that's funny. Marina Shafir can't get in the ring. Then if you see Prince Nana, you're going to see Swerve. Now, the Bucks had come in and hit a Hangman with a double super kick and more bang for your buck. And at that point, I was like, Swerve's the only one left. Because remember, Darby and Bryan already did their run-ins. Swerve did show up, laid out the Bucks with his hand wrapped in a chain. And then what did he do? He gave Hangman the chain. He wraps the chain around Moxley's throat. And then he was going to throw him over the top, but Mox broke out of it. But then Hangman hit the buckshot lariat. And then Moxley fell back onto the bed of nails. Totally disgusting. Then Page picked him up and choked him with the chain. And eventually, he tapped out. The crowd went nuts. This was a massive, massive, massive pop. It feels like a new era for AEW. It feels like we are in a new era of All Elite Wrestling. WWE has made a lot of mistakes this year, including constantly trying to fuck with AEW by booking shows the same day as AEW. Found out that for that Forbidden Door London show in August, WWE booked NXT Heatwave the same day. Why do you have to do that? Like, I know that it's a wrestling war, but I find that to be a little bit petty. Doing it once is fine. Like, trying to screw, like, okay, it's funny, haha. They're trying to take viewership away from All In. But doing it again, man, like, I mean, Tony Khan said it himself, bro. He feels like Jim Crockett in '87. WWF did something very similar back then. But AEW, this show, you had the pyro, you had Hangman there. He finally opens up the briefcase and pulls out the AEW world title which has not been seen since October. It still has Bryan Danielson's nameplate on it. And Page now has become like the man. And according to what I've been hearing, this show got the biggest buy rate in AEW history. If that's true, if that is actually true, they should be very proud of themselves because they did it without CM Punk. And that's the main crux of the story. They did it without CM Punk. That is a big accomplishment. And Hangman and Punk were the first ones to kind of start that whole problem that led into Brawl Out and all that shit. And now having Hangman win the title and having the pyro go off and Mox, leaving in defeat, it felt like the start of a new era. And I really hope that AEW does not screw this up, because I suspect there will be a ton of eyeballs on Dynamite this week. I know I'll be watching, because this pay-per-view was great. I would say it's one of the best AEW pay-per-views. They didn't give us 12 matches and they were all the same. Not on the main show, that is. They gave us, I think, 8 or 9, and that's really all that you need. And they all delivered. I mean, the weakest match was probably the tag title match. Or maybe the women's gauntlet match, as far as the weakest match went. The strongest match, I would say the main event. And like I've said before, I'm desensitized to Jon Moxley's ridiculous overbleeding and bullshit like that. Like, it's just, I'm not a huge fan of it because it's just he does it too much. But in this match, it worked and it led to the finish. And I think Mox should actually go take a break now. I really hope that he does, because damn, this match took it out of him. What a great pay-per-view AEW All In Texas was. I love this show, man. I'm not going to bullshit you. It was a phenomenal show. I like this show more than WrestleMania. I really did. It was a better show. So, again, great showing from the company. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope that TK can keep this momentum going for AEW, because they really deserve to compete and compete fairly. That's the way I see it. Have a good one. Take care.